Salute Booktube, welcome to my channel. Thank you for being here on a very hot Sunday, hot and humid Sunday afternoon in Deserta Arabia, the Arabian desert. Just, you know, some really hot weather. So glad to be inside, glad to be reading, and glad to be doing another of my Celebrating Booktubers series. Those of you who are regulars of my channel will know what this is all about, but just in short, I had done a celebratory 1 year anniversary on Booktube. Um, well, 1 year on Booktube, 100 videos, and 200 subscribers, all almost at the same time. So I made a celebratory video, and then I went traveling, and I closed Booktube for 2, 3 weeks without even looking at it. Now that I'm back from my travels, I opened my Booktube channel and saw just an outpouring of congratulations and thank yous and mentions and tags while I was away from other booktubers. So I thought, how can I give back? How can I respond to all of this and show my appreciation? So what I'm doing is a series, and the series I try to do a video where I highlight a booktuber on each video. I thought that would be the best way to do it. A lot of these are tag videos, and I'm getting into a bad habit of not tagging people in tag videos, and that's because I'm losing count of who's done what tag. It's a little bit difficult now, but I thought I would rather, instead of tagging specific channels, I would actually highlight channels in each video. For this one, I know I said I would mention one booktuber per video, but this one I'm gonna group. I'm gonna group three of my favorite booktubers in one video, because they all did the same tag. I think two out of three of them actually tagged me while I was away on this tag, uh, and so I thought I would just lump them together if they would allow me. Um, the three booktubers, since I've got to know them, have my life has gone downhill ever since. Whatever social life I had before has gone because of these individuals. Uh, you know, it's just, but I mean that in the best possible way. Of course, I was joking, but in the best possible way, because they're very entertaining booktubers, very insightful readers as well. The three booktubers are Mike at Bibliophile Bookscapes, Patrick at Patrick's Book Reviews, and Austin at Eternal Reading. And they had all done the booktuber role tag. And two of them, like I said, tagged me, so I thank you for that. I'm gonna link all their channels, their versions of this tag, in the description below. But there is just one thing before we do get into this tag. This wasn't an original tag by any of them. This was an original tag created by Allison at Allison Annotated. She'll get linked as well, as the creator of this tag. But yeah, I thought I would just answer my three good friends on Booktube's uh, respond to this tag, as I was tagged by three of my good Booktube friends. So the questions, the prompts. Number one, and this is all about, I guess it's appropriate, it's all about your role as a booktuber. It says, question one, how do you view your role as a booktuber? Examples might be as a critic, a curator, an influencer, an entertainer, an educator, etc. Critic, not so much, although once I reading the rest of the questions here, this is mostly based on being a kind of book critic on Booktube. But I don't see myself as a critic. What I do is, at the end of the month, I discuss what I read, and I discuss the book, but not as a book review or as criticism. I just review the subject matter, and so I think I would be more influencer. Definitely not. This channel is not. It's not designed to be an influencer. This is a channel designed to be a non-influencer. Um, I think educator. I like the term educator. Um, because I think I'm based in the Middle East, I'm a little bit different than a lot of the booktubers on this corner of booktube, because of where I'm based, where I'm from, the books I highlight, the topics I bring up. And I'm not saying this to disparage people or to look down on them, but I'm educating them from another perspective. I'm not saying that you are dumb, therefore I have to teach you, but I'm just giving another perspective to subject matters and even current events that you might not know. Um, so, entertainer, you have to say that. I don't think so. I don't think I'm very entertaining, but I don't try to be. And then there's curator. Maybe curator. I like to. I've done videos. You can look at my back catalog. I've done videos where I talk about, like a starter library for books about Iraqi history, or I can do that for Middle Eastern, for places like the United Arab Emirates, where I'm from, Iraq, where I have I'm half from Iraq. Um, I could curate that, but for other books, there's other book tutors who are probably more adept than me. So I would probably take the I would proudly take the educator, but like I said, the specific niche, mostly I guess history, mostly Middle Eastern history, and then even then I can narrow it down even more. But I like the idea of educator, and I've thought about becoming an educator too. The only issue with an educator is because I've seen on a lot of the book too. I think well that it'll I'll discuss that in the second question because it's neatly neatly leads to the second prompt. It says, "Do you have any educational background in literature or literary criticism, either formal or self-directed? And if you are comfortable sharing, do you have any other educational and professional experiences that you bring to bear on your reviews?" People study literary criticism? No, no. I did go to university in North America, in Canada specifically, in the West. Uh, but in literature or literary criticism, definitely not. Definitely not. And if you see whatever criticism I do or reviews in quotation marks that I do, it's very um, well, I guess again it's going to be on the next question about subjective, and my reviews are mostly speaking about the subject, and I think anybody, educated or uneducated, has a right to an opinion. So I'm more opinions rather than professional criticism. Uh, this idea that you need to be educated to do it, I don't think so. I don't think so. But then I remember, I think both Austin and Mike both had mentioned in their videos that they never went to higher education. I think Austin mentioned he didn't even complete his GCSEs. Mike mentioned he finished high school and then went right into professional working. Um, and uh, I think Austin specifically said he loves reading, but he never enjoyed it at school. And it's not just Austin. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, well, I never." I get not people watching this, but I'm talking about the general public. They don't like reading because they were discouraged at school, um, discouraged from reading. I think the same is true, and it's specifically about history. For those of you who are new to my channel, I read mostly nonfiction. I read mostly history. A lot of people, even readers, booktubers, serious readers, say, "Oh, no, no, history. I don't like it. It's too much facts." And that again, that's a product of school. It was badly taught at school, and I've always said maybe I can get into teaching and be an educator to try to change that. But one thing with teaching, it's not a merit based job. If you're a good teacher or a bad teacher, you're getting the same salary. I think that's the problem. But anyway, um, I don't have any educational background, and I don't think you have to if you want to read books. And then for all of, like, as an example, Mike or Austin, as they had mentioned, they don't have formal higher education. But if you see what they read, if you look at the books, they are equal to anybody who's got an higher education, in my opinion. So anyway, that's that. I think question number three is, do you typically do any research on either the book or the author before you review a book. Again, review a book. Sometimes I will discuss, usually on my channel at the end of the month, I discuss, I review, I don't review, I discuss and summarize what I've read in the month. Usually it's called my monthly wrap-up video. It usually exists at the end of each month. Last month was a bit of an exception because of my travels. This month might be an exception. I might combine it with this series, but usually I do a monthly wrap-up video, and I'll summarize a book. Sometimes I'll do research, but when you talk about research, it's not research like in-depth research where I take a whole day or anything. I'll take a quick glance at the Wikipedia to get an idea, and I'll usually do it if I'm gonna talk in depth about the book. But it's a quick Wikipedia, and usually it's not even the entire Wikipedia piece, probably just parts or related to that specific book that author wrote. Of course, if I really enjoy the author and I've read multiple works from that author, I will tend to look for a biography of that author. So, I mean, as an example, last month I read this book, Animal Farm by George Orwell. For this, I did a bit of research on George Orwell because you had to understand the story or the meaning behind the story of the whole Animal Farm. I mean, this is taught to kids in school, and it could be used as a, an upper level YA book. But if you want to understand the meaning behind the story, what Orwell was alluding to in this book, you've got to understand Orwell's history with the Communist Party, and then his falling out, I guess, with the Communist Party, or falling out with Stalinism, what happened to the communist ideal. That's definitely, those experiences are definitely inherent in this book. So, basic research, but I've got so many Orwell books, and every Orwell that I have read, I've enjoyed. So I do have an Orwell biography. So I'll get that deep, but for a specific review, only if I need to understand where the author is coming from. Prompt number 4. Do you focus your reviews more on the objective qualities of a book or more on your subjective opinions about it? Definitely subjective. Definitely subjective. That's what I was talking about when I do reviews. My reviews at the end of the month, I really talk subjectively. I don't even look at literary criticism or how did the author write or their writing style. I typically focus on what they argue or what the subject matter is, and that's why I have more of the educator rather than the critic. That's how I feel. I think you get that vibes. I get a bit lectury in my videos, and it's not just making videos and talking about. I've started to write. I have been writing before, but on my Substack, which is linked. It's linked in the description. You can check out my Substack. The last thing I wrote about was this book, Leap of Faith, by Queen Noor. Memoirs of an Expected Life. This was the widow of the former king of Jordan, the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan here in the Middle East, Hussein, who died in 99 now. It's been a while, but this is her memoirs. And I did this as a buddy read with some friends, JJ and Doug, who's a commenter, a prolific commenter on my channel. We buddy read this, but I was communicating via email, and I just collated all that email and turned it into an article on Substack, an essay, I guess. And I don't think it's an opinion. Again, I don't think it's a review or literary criticism. It's just opinion, and it's very subjective, and it's more about the character than the actual writing. Anyone who read that piece will see I took it very savage. I kind of attacked. I strongly attacked this person, this individual, Queen Noor. And I've written previously about, and my Substack is very new, and I've got very few pieces on it. Maybe two or three right now, maybe four, two or three. But I've got another blog which is private. It's not open to the public, where I've got much more writing. Not much more, but I've got more writing in there. Maybe I'll transfer some of them to the Substack. Just copy paste it. One example of an author I've written about quite extensively, not extensively, but I've written about is F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is the copy of The Great Gatsby. This is his most famous book, but I was writing more about his short stories, and Fitzgerald gets a lot of bad rap. I don't know why on Booktube. People are like, no, he's overrated, and I don't really like him, and The Great Gatsby is terrible. Perhaps, again, this is mixing all the previous questions. If you do a bit of research about F. Scott Fitzgerald, his life, where he lived, the time he lived, the people he surrounded himself with, the obsession he had with people of wealth, trying to live with these people, these rich people, but always never quite reaching their standards, never having their kind of money. And then the way he passed away, the illnesses, his wife plays a big role in his life and works. But I think a lot of people don't resonate with it because of the background of the author. But Fitzgerald, for me, he resonates because I'm in the United Arab Emirates, and I live not far from the city of Dubai. And Dubai has a big reputation for ostentatious wealth, and so a lot of Gatsby's, Fitzgerald's works, they resonate with me. I can understand it again. But what was the actual prompt? I went a bit on a tangent. It said, "Do you focus your reviews more on objective or subjective?" Definitely subjective. Definitely, you don't have to be educated, but you can do a bit of. It's important to do just a bit of research just to understand where that author is coming from. Um, Again, that's how I would answer that one. Number 5, have you ever received a free book or advanced reader copy from the author? And if so, did it have any impact on your ability to honestly review the book or on how you felt about it? Again, as I mentioned, I live in the Middle East, so Western English publishing, this isn't a place for it. That's mostly in the UK and the US, perhaps Canada and Australia. Here, not this idea of getting free copies is going to be difficult for me. They're going to have to send it halfway across the world, so it's not feasible. Where I have gotten a couple of free books as from local authors, but again, not with the expectation to review. I wanted to purchase. There was a work of fiction written by a local author. I wanted to purchase it, and the author was there at the stand. It was at the book fair, and I said, how much for this? And he said, "What? No, don't be silly. Just take it." He signed it and said, "It's free. It's yours for free." But he wasn't expecting a review. He didn't know that this was a while ago before I had Booktube, but he was being nice. I have once received. I didn't receive the book for free. I actually purchased it, but I was given the opportunity to interview the author for a very small venue event here locally. So I interviewed the author, and that did affect me. It did affect me because I did write about that book in my secret blog, which is private and I don't share with the world. And I gave it very positive. Usually, my blog and increasingly my Substack, what I do when I write about books or book reviews or opinions is I do very good at being critical about a book. I'm not very good at being positive or praising a book in writing, but in bashing a book, I'm very good when I'm writing. So I bashed Queen Noor. I bashed quite a few other authors in my private blog, but for that one where I actually met the author, I mean, I could have bashed, but I was nice. Actually, I couldn't have. It deserved the positive feedback was deserved. But again, I'm not a reviewer. I don't receive free books on the regular, not yet at least. But how would I feel if it would be something to think about. You get it for free, you do it as a favor. Maybe the best thing to do is to pay it, to say, look, I can be either positive or negative because I've paid for it. But I don't know if I ever in that position, but right now I'm not, so it's very tough for me to answer that question. The position of receiving free books. Um, and then number 7, the final prompt. How do you feel about the fact? Oh no, sorry. There's one more. Number 6. Do you review? There's two more. So number 6 and number 7. Number 6 says, do you review every book you read? Are there any reasons that you might read a book but choose not to review it? So again, review, I think in this video they mean review because the explanation for this video, Allison, the person who created this video, I think was referring to the death of the literary, the review section in the Washington Post newspaper. And I think what she was alluding to when creating this tag and thinking about when creating this tag is these written literary sections in newspapers are dying out, and this is the future. Doing it like on Booktube and Book Talk, and doing it digitally and talking about books and having a community and Goodreads and that kind of stuff, like Amazon reviews, that kind of stuff. So do you review every book you read? I try to, but I don't review. Again, I discuss them at the end of the month. At the beginning of the month, I highlight what I plan to read, and at the end of the month, I give you my summary. And I try to discuss every book I read. But review it in writing, no. Again, it's only if it's a subject which I feel confident I know about and which I can bash. But are there any reasons that you might read a book but choose not to review it? Again, if I feel like I'm not the person, if I was to review something about, life in the Midwest of America, it's tough for me. It's because I don't have that experience. But I do discuss them on this channel, and then again, if such as this one I feel confident to talk about because it's based on the Middle East. It's an American woman who becomes an Arab royal. There I'm comfortable, and maybe on my Substack, again, check out my Substack. Maybe going in the future, because people have told me your writing is not bad. I've been getting some nice, encouraging responses for my writing. Maybe going forward, I will do more reviews in writing on my Substack of the books I read. Something to, again, it's work. I don't have that much time, but maybe I'll do that going forward. And then number 7, the final prompt. How do you feel about the fact that many people now primarily consume book reviews by hobbyists on Booktube rather than professional critics? What is lost? What is gained? So that was alluding to what I said. The idea and the inspiration for this tag from Allison. The idea that these book sections, literary sections in newspapers are dying out. But Book Talk and Booktube is exploding, and there's been explosions of bookshops opening because of things like Book Talk and Booktube. I've seen stories on YouTube, news stories, American news stories about how bookshops are making a comeback, hard copy bookshops, and how even the corporate bookshops are becoming much more localized. They're allowing their employees to choose books based on their customers and what their customers are asking for, and becoming very community based, which are all very encouraging. So I think that's what's gained. That you can, if you live in, I don't know, in a certain community, and that community shares a few things, or there's local authors, that kind of this new, well, I guess newspapers could do that as well, so it wasn't much of a gain, but because newspapers were very local. You had the Washington Post, the New York Times, the whatever town with the newspaper, but I think here what they're alluding to in the tag, and what the tag creator is alluding to is, now anybody can just turn on a camera and talk about books. You don't have to be a professional. I think there's still a place for professional criticism. I think, again, what this does, what Booktube does, it gives you more niche. If you want to get quite niche, if you're interested in history, you're gonna like my channel. If you like Middle Eastern history, you're gonna definitely like my channel. If you like, there are certain things you click with a booktuber and you say, okay, I this person, we have similar tastes. It happens all the time. Sometimes you have no tastes, and there's no connection, and your reading is quite different. Not better or worse, just different. So there's that. So that's what I think. What is it called? Book review by hobbyists. You can really, with the amount of booktubers out there now, you can really hone in and find a specific niche, with fellow hobbyists on certain subjects. If you were in a certain subject, let's say Don Quixote, you're into your Cervantes. Well, Patrick at Patrick Book Review has just made maybe half a dozen, maybe even a dozen videos about Cervantes and Don Quixote and all of that. So if you really want to get into that, you would plug into his channel, even if it's not for a while, for the long term, just for that content that he's made about Don Quixote and Cervantes, as an example. While so that's been gained, you can really become niche, but has there been lost? Yes, because those critics who do it professionally, that's what they do. This isn't some kind of informal review. They actually they've accumulated, so they've probably read, you know, if I've read, I don't know, one George Orwell book, a professional critic has probably read all of George Orwell and can compare and contrast and talk much more professionally. And again, I mean, books are expensive. If you're going to a bookshop and you have to buy, and you've got a limited budget, you have to make decisions, and that's where I think a professional. Although again, the hobbyist can also, if you say, look, this person, I agree 110% with everything he or she says. So when they recommend this book, or they show this book, or they highlight this book, and I see it at the bookshop, I know what I'm getting, and I know I'm gonna get my money's worth. So yeah, it's changing. Times are changing. But I still think there is a place for professional critics. I definitely think so. Um, I don't know. I'm jumbling now again, but I had just mentioned Patrick's book review. This video is in honor of him, along with Mike at Bibliophile Bookscapes and Austin at Eternal Reading. Thank you guys for tagging me on this. Apologies for being very late to getting this and sort of being MIA and ignoring you for the last couple of weeks, but I'm back now. I'm going to link all their channels below. You should check it out. You should subscribe to them. They are very, very entertaining booktubers. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you very much, Booktube. Salute.